When all you've ever known is hatred, when all you've ever known is lies, when all you've ever known is destruction, how does one mature? Do you move on with your life? Do you let the guilt from self-reflection consume you? Do you start over and learn from your past in order to be a better person in the future? These are some of the questions that this game answers when it comes to Kratos after everything he's done. He's older and wiser. He has his emotions under control. He has a son now as well. Even with all that, it seems like the ghost of Sparta finds himself on the same path again, whether he likes it or not.
So I'm a man now, like you?
No. We are not men. We are more than that. The responsibility is far greater. And you must be better than me. Understand? Say it.
You will be better.
The game starts off with an older and stone-faced Kratos. He starts to embrace a tree with a golden handprint on it before chopping it down. After he chops it down, his bandages around his arm starts to come loose. As he starts to tighten them, we are introduced to his son Atreya'S. They take the tree back to their home, and this is when we see what the tree is for. Kratos' wife, also the mother of Atreya'S, has passed away. They need the wood to burn her body and collect the ashes. She wants her ashes to be spread on the highest peak in all the realms. After collecting her ashes, Kratos tells Atreya'S to show him everything his mother has taught him. So they go off into the woods and start hunting deers. They are able to hunt one, and this is when we experience Atreya'S' first kill with him. They are attacked by a troll and they manage to take it out. When they get back home, Kratos tells Atreya'S that he's not ready. Atreya'S doesn't know how to control his anger yet, and Kratos is all too familiar with that. This is when we get a knock at the door, and the stranger says he knows Kratos. Kratos tells Atreya'S to hide and answers the door. The stranger starts taunting Kratos by insulting him and hitting him. They get into a fight and Kratos barely wins. He starts to wonder who the stranger was and tells Atreya'S it's time to leave. Even though Kratos believes neither him nor Atreya'S are ready for this journey they're about to embark on. Not too long after they set off, they run into Brock, one of the dwarves who made Kratos' axe. He upgrades Kratos' axe and they continue their journey. Soon after, Kratos and Atreya'S hunt a boar. The boar belonged to a witch. She asked them to bring the boar back to her home. That is under a giant turtle, which is fucking awesome, by the way. This is when we find out that Kratos is well known in this realm. The witch tells Kratos that she knows who he is, and so does Odin and Thor. That he needs to tell Atreya'S who he is and where he comes from. Kratos tells the witch he'll tell his son everything when the time is right. The witch puts a spell on them to hide them from whomever may be looking for them. The witch shows them this underground passage that leads them to the foot of the mountain. They have to take a boat to get there, and on their way there, they meet the World Serpent. It moves, lowering the water level, exposing more of the area. Kratos and Atreya'S climb this giant mechanical bridge. This mechanical bridge leads them to the foot of the mountain. While there, they meet Sindri, the brother of Brock. He tells them that he knows Kratos' wife and he'll upgrade his axe. As Kratos and Atreya'S starts to make their way up the mountain, they are blocked by this black fog so thick that they can't even get through it. The witch shows up. She tells them that they won't be able to get through it, that they need the light of Elfheim to break the fog. The witch shows Kratos and Atreya'S that the giant mechanical bridge is a gateway to different realms. She helps them get to Elfheim and is being consumed by war. The light and dark elves are at war with one another. Kratos and Atreya'S make it to the light, but they have to step in it in order to get it. Kratos does, and this is when we hear Atreya'S' feelings about Kratos. Then Kratos gets pulled out by Atreya'S. Kratos starts yelling at Atreya'S, not noticing all the dead dark elves around them that Atreya'S had killed. Atreya'S tells him that he was in there for a long time and that they need to go. Kratos and Atreya'S head back to the mountain to get rid of the black mist. On their way up there, they fight a fucking dragon. Also, the way that Kratos kills this dragon is fucking awesome. After killing the dragon and climbing up the mountain some more, as they get up to the top, they hear some voices. It's the stranger and Thor's sons, and they're talking to a tree. The stranger is asking the tree about Kratos and Atreya'S. This is when we find out the stranger's name for the first time, and his name is Baldur. The tree says he doesn't know anything, and they leave. When Kratos and Atreya'S get up to the top of the mountain, there's a person fused with the tree, and his name is Mimir, the smartest man alive. Mimir tells Kratos that he knows who he is, and he should tell Atreya'S everything. Kratos tells Mimir to mind his business. Atreya'S tells Mimir that his mother wanted her ashes to be spreaded on the highest peak in all the realms. Mimir tells him that this is not the highest peak. The highest peak is in Jotunheim. Mimir says that the gate to Jotunheim is gone, but he may know a way to bring it back. He tells Kratos he can help, but not as is. He asks Kratos to cut off his head and take him to someone who knows the old magic so he can be reanimated. Kratos cuts off Mimir's head and takes him back to the witch to be reanimated. After Mimir is reanimated, the witch spits in his face. This is when we find out that the witch is a god. Freya is her name, and Kratos is not happy about this, and he storms out. Kratos, Atreya'S, and Mimir go talk to the world serpent about Jotunheim. The serpent says it'll help, and it moves the bridge in the direction that they're supposed to go. While the serpent is moving the bridge, Mimir tells Kratos and Atreya'S that they need two things to get into Jotunheim: a special chisel made by the giants, and to learn the rune that gets them into Jotunheim. After going through a bunch of shit, Kratos, Atreya'S, and Mimir finally get the chisel. Before they are able to get it, they run into Thor's sons, Magni and Modi. Magni and Modi starts talking shit to Kratos and Atreya'S, mainly about Faye, Kratos' wife and Atreya'S' mother. This is when everyone starts fighting, and this battle is pretty awesome. As everyone is fighting, Modi starts talking more shit about Faye. This sends Atreya'S into a frenzy, making him cough up blood. Kratos overpowers Magni and kills him. This makes Modi panic and run away. Kratos, Atreya'S, and Mimir head back to Tyr's temple to use the chisel, and Modi gets the drop on them. He has Kratos locked down under some lightning he's casting. He continues to taunt Atreya'S and sends him into rage mode. His body can't handle it though, and he passes out. Kratos activates his rage mode, breaks free from the lightning, making Modi run away again. Kratos, panicking, takes Atreya'S back to Freya, and she says she can help him. She needs the heart of the bridge keeper in Helheim. She also tells Kratos that no normal flame can be used in Helheim, that only the strongest of flames can be used in the frigid weather of Helheim. This is when Kratos goes back home and digs up the blades of chaos. He makes his way to Helheim and kills the bridge keeper and takes his heart. Freya heals Atreya'S and Kratos thanks her. He tells her that he'll never forget this, and they leave. This is when Kratos tells Atreya'S that they're both gods. Atreya'S can't believe what he's hearing and start asking a bunch of questions. They finally make it to Tyr's temple and get the rune for Jotunheim. After obtaining the rune from Jotunheim, they start to make their way up the mountain again. Things start to take a turn for the worse because Atreya'S is letting his god status get to his head. He starts off by going off on Sindri for no reason. Then he kills a severely beaten and unarmed Modi. This of course pisses off Kratos. He tries to talk some sense into Atreya'S, but Atreya'S starts yelling at Kratos. Kratos tells him to watch who the fuck he's talking to, making Atreya'S walk off. Once they make it up to the gate again and open it, Baldur shows up. During the fight, the gate gets destroyed. Baldur grabs Atreya'S and jumps on his dragon to escape, but Kratos is not going to let that happen. They fight each other until the dragon lands on Tyr's temple. They fight each other in the room that's used for realm travel, which ends up sending them to Helheim. In the depths of Helheim, Atreya'S and Kratos find out that Baldur is the son of Freya. They find and use an abandoned ship to get out of Helheim. In Tyr's temple, they find out that there's another way to get to Jotunheim. Not only is it in the innermost parts of Tyr's temple, it is also in the realm between realms. The last thing they need is Mimir's other eye, which is in the statue of Thor the world serpent ate earlier. So they talk to the world serpent and go inside of it and retrieve it. On their way out of the world serpent, they realize the world serpent is being beat up. They get spit out near the dead giant with the magic chisel that they had to get earlier. Freya shows up and tries to talk to them, but Kratos and Atreya'S keep their distance. Boulder comes out of the water ready to fight but sees his mother Freya. He tries to kill her and Kratos intervenes. This is when we get the final battle. During the fight, Atreya'S gets punched and the arrowhead that Kratos used earlier to fix Atreya'S quiver stabs Boulder in the hand. This makes him vulnerable again, which means he can be killed. They fight some more and Boulder is beaten. Kratos tells him to leave him and Atreya'S alone and starts to walk away. Boulder gets up and has a heart-to-heart with Freya before he tries to kill her. Kratos, who has done and seen this before, kills Boulder. This makes Freya angry and upset. She tells Kratos that she will rain hell down upon him and leaves. After all of that, they finally open up the gate to Jotunheim. While in Jotunheim, they see that all of this was prophesied and Faye knew about all of this the whole time. They spread her ashes, have a father and son bonding moment, and the story ends there. So there are many things I can talk about when it comes to this story. I'm pretty sure a lot of it is me thinking way too deep about a lot of it. Plus, I don't want this video to be excessively long either. There is one thing that stood out to me though quite a bit as I played through this story again. That thing is parenting and the extremes that can come with it. How those extremes can affect a child in ways that the parent could never imagine. This is shown perfectly with Kratos and Atreya'S, the other being Freya and Boulder. Let me explain. Kratos' extreme towards Atreya'S was separation, staying far away as possible, physically and emotionally, because he was trying to find himself. That's one of the reasons why he calls him boy, because he's afraid to show his emotions. What this results in is a father and son that doesn't have any chemistry at the start. A father and son who are fond of one another, but don't have a bond with one another.
Listen, that's called motherfucking bars, nigga. You know nothing about that.
You understand why Kratos did this because he was trying to find himself. He was trying to control and master his emotions that has brought him nothing but death and destruction. He got a new start with his new family, but all the things he's done still haunts him. He didn't want his family, mainly his son, to be subjected to any of his personal demons. That's why when he goes back home to get the Blades of Chaos, it's a long boat ride. A boat ride of self-reflection. If he was a part of Atreya'S' life earlier, could he have prevented this from happening? Was that separation really for his family, or was it him being selfish again? Kratos was following in his father's footsteps and didn't even notice it. Zeus did Kratos the same way, and we saw what that resulted in, mainly referring to the separation. Freya's extreme was being too overprotective and too overbearing with Boulder. Once again, you understand why she did it when you hear about what Odin did to her and her people. So her taking those extremes to protect the only thing she has left is understandable. At the same time, she didn't take into account how this would affect her son. Boulder is invulnerable, but can experience one of the great things about being alive. That is using your six senses. Yes, he can obviously hear and see, but when you can't smell anything, taste anything, feel anything, are you really alive? Boulder doesn't think so. This is why when he becomes vulnerable, he starts to cry, because he finally feels alive. Freya didn't take any of that into consideration. This resulted in her losing the one thing she didn't want to lose in the first place. Her son. This game graphically is one of the best I've seen in a long time. When I originally played this, it was on my base PS4, which if I'm not mistaken, it runs at 1080p 30 frames per second. Pair that up with a 40-something inch 4K TV, it starts to look a little bit funky. You can see quite a few jaggies, but none of that started to matter the more I played. This time I played it on PC at 4K settings, and it ran like a dream for the most part. I love the colder setting that the Norse mythology is embedded in. Perfect example is the beginning area. It's cold and frigid, a stark contrast to the more warmer climate of the Greek setting. Don't get me wrong, Midgard has some variety in its biomes, but just a little bit. Where the environments really start to shine and flex their fantastic art direction is with the other realms you go to throughout the game. Helheim is cold and frigid, and its unrelenting winds howl like the spirits that walk all throughout the realm. Muspelheim is a scorched realm, consumed by volcanoes and lava as far as the eye can see. The air has ash endlessly floating around, which makes it look like it's hell to breathe in. Niflheim is a realm with a mist so thick that you can barely see in front of you. This mist is deadly if you stay in it too long. It also looks like it just stinks. Elfheim is this really pretty dreamlike forest that is ravaged by war. The water is crystal clear with a pretty blue color. This translates well with Kratos' somewhat new design. He has a much more rugged look. He now sports a lumberjack beard, which I'm highly jealous of. His body reflects that as well. He has much more of a muscular dad bod going on now. He is no longer the lean, chiseled ab Spartan we are used to seeing. The enemies have changed as well because of this. There are so many different types of enemies in this game, it's kind of ridiculous. So many, in fact, I'm not even going to try to go through them all. I just decided to pick the ones that piss me off the most. So let's talk about them. So starting off with the Revenants, these witch-like creatures that teleport and can poison you. The other variation summons nightmares, these giant eyeball things. Their attacks track you hard, so be mindful of them at all times. The only way you can take them down is by having Atreya'S shoot arrows at them, making them tangible. Lightning arrows work best because it leaves them stunned. Next are Wolvers, these werewolf-built creatures that are extremely fast and hit hard. When they howl, that means that they're going into a frenzy. Their claws grow, they become faster and hit harder. There's a stronger version of them called the Fierce Wolvers. Wolvers have these lunge attacks that can kill you quickly and is unblockable. So the best way to take them out is to use every skill you can, because a fight with these things can change quickly. Lastly, our Tatzelworm. These cat lizard things that burrow underground and wait until the shittiest time to pop out. The other variation is the Cursed Tatzelworm. It's basically the projectile version of the enemy and spits poison at you. The best way to deal with these things is using Atreya'S lightning arrows to keep them still. To take on the mass amount of enemies, Kratos and Atreya'S have a fairly decent arsenal at their disposal. Kratos has 5 weapons, technically 4, but one of them you'll use like one. The first weapon is a Leviathan axe, Kratos' main weapon. It's a frost axe. It can be used to take on most enemies except for Reavers. You can throw the axe and freeze enemies. There are 2 different throws, light, which is X, and heavy, which is Y, if you have that control scheme. The next weapon is Kratos' fist, which is used to take on Reavers and others to fill up the stun bar faster. His third weapon is the Guardian Shield. It is used to block and parry. It also has its own skills you can use in combat. Kratos' second to last weapon is none other than the one and only Blades of Chaos. You know what they do and how they work. I don't even need to explain. They're really good against Reavers and most enemies in Helheim. The last one is sort of kind of a weapon, and that is Rage Mode. This is a super clutch last moment ability that can change the tides of battle. It does decent damage, but the biggest thing about it is that it heals you as you use it. When it comes to Atreya'S, he only has one, and that is the Talon Bow. It fills up the stun bar on enemies. It also has 2 elements, lightning and light. It also can summon spears to help you in battle. My favorite one is Ratatasker, aka Bit of Squirrel. The reason why is because every time you summon him, he talks shit and it's hilarious. This game took the RE4 route by completely changing his camera to third person over the shoulder, moving away from his extremely played out camera hovering in the air arena style gameplay. This game also added more RPG-like elements with the inclusion of gear, skills, and stats that can give you buffs. When it comes to gear, there are 3 pieces: chest, wrist, and waist. They all have the same tier system: common, rare, legendary, and epic. Each piece has its own bonus, like favoring runic or favoring strength and so forth. Gems are the cherry on top. They follow the same tier structure, but their main goal is to boost your gear. They can come with perks like being resistant to effects like frost, poison, burn, etc. What also comes with this RPG-like change are favors and labors. labors give you more XP. This ranges from finding shrines and chambers, to parrying a certain amount of enemies or stun grabbing them, to killing a certain number of a particular enemy. These are also good for world building and helping you get to know some of the characters more. Both of these combined will help you get better gear and other items. As you play through the game, you'll earn XP. XP is used to upgrade Kratos and Atreya'S and give them new moves. It's also used to upgrade summons and runic attacks. As you upgrade each weapon, the more skills you unlock. This is done by obtaining certain materials needed to upgrade each weapon. There is so much more I can talk about, but I'm gonna end it here. Mainly because I know most of y'all won't make it this far anyway. If you did, leave a comment saying, "Joke's on you, I did, jerk."
Lads, am I glad to see you. I believe I've reached my limit for dwarven charm.
What happened, Mimir?
They took an uncomfortable number of measurements and then proceeded to bicker about the weather.
Where do you want us to take you?
How about the warm confines of anywhere bloody else?
This is one of my favorite games of all time. It is up there with RE4, Star Fox 64, and The Last of Us. The funny thing is that when I first played this a year or two ago, I hated it. The controls felt clunky and the enemies were spongy. Let's ignore the fact that I started on hard, like I always do, and I highly recommend you do too. The thing that made me fall in love with this game is that if you sit with it, it will reward you in so many ways that makes it hard for you to put down a controller. The more you master the controls and learn the intricacies of the gameplay, it becomes highly addictive. Pair that up with the fantastic story and characters, it helps you understand why this franchise is so beloved. This game is the reason why I played and reviewed the other games in the franchise. That says a lot right there on how much this game had an impact on me. When this game drops on YouTube, Ragnarok will be out, and I cannot wait. This game made me a huge God of War fan. I cannot wait to see how Santa Monica Studios ends this iconic franchise and character.